specializing in the development of eco-lodges. Frederick Robert from Mauritius, who has a very exciting project for the country there. Also Mr. John Pinniger of the Association for International Travel and Tourism, and John also has particular interest in the West African area countries. And a little bit later we'll be joined by Dr. Diomana, who is has a tourism project which he's going to tell us about for Côte d'Ivoire. So let's get straight on with the first presentation, and over to you, Guillaume.
Great, thank you very much, Paul. Can we confirm first that the presentation is online? Oh, great, it is. Good. So as Paul, said, my name is Guillaume Pellerin. I'm the CEO for Zoobox. So Zoobox is an ecotourism company. We design, construct, and operate ecotourism sites around the world. Now, we are trying to develop a new kind of ecotourism. So our definition of ecotourism would be a tourism that has very low or no impact on its host environment. And we are trying to create what we call a regeneration tourism. So it's tourism that actually helps regenerate its local environment. We work with national parks, but we also work with forestry organizations, and we work with private investors as well. So maybe we can get to the next slide. To tell you just a bit of story of Zoobox. So we've been in operation for 15 years, mainly in Canada. We started near a national park called Offord National Park, south of Montreal. Now we're opening sites around the world. So through 2 more sites in Canada, sites in England, in Ireland, Portugal, but also in Africa. And that's what I want to talk about, in Madagascar and in the Ivory Coast. Now, the Ivory Coast project has been put a bit on ice due to COVID, but Madagascar is progressing well. So I can talk to you a bit more about how we're proceeding there. We can change slide, please. So those are the projects that we're on right now. We also have a memorandum with Saudi Arabia for 5 sites. We can change slide. Again. Okay, so Zoobox, whenever we create a site, there's 3 main pillars. There's a nature immersion. So when you're on a Zoobox site, you should not see or hear your neighbor. The whole idea is to be in nature. 80% of the population live in cities now. We've been stuck on each other with COVID. So a lot of people just want to connect back to nature and be with their loved one, in their own kind of little bubble. There's always an imaginative journey site. So what we do is we take normal ecotourism experiences. A good example would be, let's say, fat bike. And then we try to push it further. So we would do fat bike at night with luminescence tired, and we would create a whole storyline with your friends where you would have to do some activities to unlock some quests. So we try to, go a bit further. And the third and most important one for national park is ecosystem protection. So there's always a study to have the least possible impact on the environment when we construct. And then there's a regeneration program after that. Next slide, please. So this is an example of nature immersion. So the Zoobox unit, the technology is actually in the center. You see the box in the center. And the outside appearance in this case is made to mimic the desert dunes, because that's the local environment. But when you have forest, you have a different type of cladding. When you have a jungle, it's different. So it really depends on where we're doing the project. Next slide, please. So the Zoobox technology was made for a national park. The idea is that you can install it with no roads, no heavy equipment, and completely off the grid. And the house itself can be splitted in small pieces. So in countries like Madagascar, for example, we could carry the whole thing by hands, by people carrying pieces of the house and reassemble it on site, which gives us almost no impact on the park. That's usually a bit struggle that you have with national park, where you just cannot build any infrastructure. So that's the solution we bring. Next slide, please. So that's example of imaginative journey. We work with different partners, but we do outdoor activities, but also artwork at night. Next slide, please. So there's 3 pillars for our ecotourism side. All our sites are carbon negative for construction and operation. Then we have our ecosystem regeneration program, which can generate up to 100K per year in direct ecosystem regeneration protection program. And our sites are zero waste, so the kitchen doesn't produce any waste. Next slide. So when we work with national parks, we try to use ecotourism as a regional development tool, regeneration tool, and we have a program to transfer all the infrastructure to the national park over a period of time with training. So we help countries that have not developed yet their infrastructure for park, and we transfer those infrastructure over time, so it then become an official national park, and the project can be part of that. And I think we're to the last slide. Yeah, that's it. So that's good. It was a bit over 5 minutes, but that's what we do. So if anybody's interested to work with us in Africa, we're in Madagascar and Ivory Coast, but we would be happy to work in other countries. So you can go on our website, www.zoobox.ie. You'll find my number and my email address there. Thank you very much, Paul.
Thank you, Guillaume. Just for interest's sake, as this is also a quest for investment as part of our discussions today, you talked a little bit about the Madagascar project being live. Is that how many millions of dollars is involved in that?
If we're talking about Madagascar, it's a project of high-end lodges. The project is 25 lodges, a welcoming center, and a scientific station. The total cost is about 17 million at the moment, with a small airport, because it's high-end and it's quite isolated.
Right.
We're looking at a return of investment of about 5 to 6 years, depending on the occupancy rate. We already have 2 investors that are ready, and we might be looking for a third investor. So a third investor could be for 30% of the project, for example.
Yeah.
So if anybody's interested, I would be happy to talk with them.
Indeed. And how many units and whereabouts in Madagascar is this?
So if you know Madagascar, in the middle of the island, there's a place that is not known internationally, but known by locals, called the Makai. And the Makai is this, it's almost like rediscovering the Galapagos Island. It's unexplored, very rare, endemic species. And it's this series of canyon with natural pools and species that are just unknown at the moment. So it's really a stunning place. And the idea is to build the project on top of the canyons. So you would have this big open view on the canyon and the Makai itself, which is a huge valley. Also a series of rivers within the canyon. So it's really a stunning place, and it's not known yet. So we want to develop a park with the local government before it gets known, because we don't want this stunning place to be damaged by tourism.
And you have a timeline on this? Obviously, it depends on the investment.
You know, it all depends on permits. That's, construction is never really the issue for us. It's the permit, especially for a national park. Mm-hmm. So we're looking to launch it within the next 2 years. But that's going to depend on whether we get the permit sooner or later.
That's great. Well, thank you very much indeed. It sounds really exciting and very much an undiscovered and still to be discovered destination in Madagascar. So now we move to a country with another M, Mauritius, and it's my pleasure to introduce Frederick Robert, who's going to tell us about his exciting development opportunities for a 21st century city called St. Felix. Frederick, over to you.
Good afternoon, Paul. Thank you. There is a little presentation of one of the main features of a project, if that could be played, and then I'll run you through the whole development. Okay, so this was just a feature of a project. It's a smart city development in Mauritius. So point one, government introduced a new real estate scheme a few years back to boost investment in that sector. So this scheme was introduced in 2015 with several incentives. A developer can do a project and be exempted from income tax for a period of 8 years, exempted on land transfer tax, registration duties, exempted on custom duties on construction materials, and VAT recovery on building and capital goods, also granted accelerated annual allowance at the rate of 50% on capital expenditure for certain equipment. So the government put a scheme to encourage promoters and investors to come to Mauritius. Also, a very interesting point is that non-citizen or any legal structure can acquire a built-up residential property without a minimum price for an acquisition of a residential unit, but with an amount exceeding 375,000 USD, a non-citizen can apply with his family for residence permit. There are also interesting schemes for retirees coming to settle to Mauritius. So point 2. So the master plan project is divided into several phases and is situated in the southwest region of Mauritius. So if we're going to go to point 2 of the slide, please, Alicia. Yeah, here we go. So the master plan has been divided into 7 phases and enabling each phase to fully achieve their development targets and to benefit all tax exemptions mentioned over a period of 8 years. The project is surrounded by existing villages and the region counts around 60,000 people living in its vicinity. The Smart City has signed a strategic agreement with a Japanese company for ocean-based research and development technologies, also known as Itic. The whole project cost is capped at 2.5 billion USD over a period of 20 years. Point 3. So it's phase 1. We'll start. So the phase 1 is work, live, and play criteria. The phase 1 development includes the main infrastructural works of the project. It is divided into residential zones, offices, and recreational activities. The various zones can be developed by different promoters within the Smart City project and thus opening opportunities in terms of concept and design. People today are looking for small and spacious housing units with a garden which they can easily attend to. The chance of the Smart City is that it can combine different layers of society, thus creating the soul of the city where people can interact, exchange ideas, contribute towards upgrading our environment, performing sport activities easily, and helping others in need by joining the Smart City community platform, which will be open to the region at large. The concept of living into such a development is to bring all facilities to your doorsteps, thus avoiding transportation, stress, fatigue, and giving you a quality of life where you can work and enjoy fully your leisure time. The phase 1 development cost is capped at 170 million USD over a period of 8 years. So point 4. So sustainable development goals voted by the UN is fully integrated in the project. The success of a smart city development will greatly depend upon the implementation at the project level of these sustainable points as illustrated. The site is located between the mountain at the back and the sea in front. The site has natural resources such as fresh water flowing through, wind coming from the southeast, a solar exposure to the north, and the ocean in front. All these factors could be transformed into sustainable energy, thus reducing the carbon footprint and improving the standard of living. Agricultural zones have been earmarked to supply the smart city and common gardens of fruit and vegetables cultivated by actors of the smart city and distributed locally. A major aspect is to include the people of a region, a fisherman village, which is on the master plan, into educative programs to preserve their lagoon and environment and derive an income from these activities. Social integration, accessibility to sports, to maintain the healthy body and mind are primordial for the community. Urban planning combined with sustainable construction methods with a plan of tropical reforestation. Point 5, closing statement. So the company, you see the fisherman village in the background here. So the company dates back as from 1914 and has actively participated in the development of its region and its people. We strongly believe that the success of a smart city is linked to the well-being of all stakeholders, poverty alleviation, and integration within the development. And thank you. I will be available for any questions if you wish. Paul. You're on mute.
Thank you very much, Frederick. That was a really interesting development and presentation. And this is obviously a project which is going to be going over quite a few years.
Yes.
And the first phase is already underway, I imagine, and you're looking to go for what, 5 years or longer?
Each phase you can go to benefit all the tax incentive. It's a maximum of 8 years. And the first phase, we are still in the planning period now, and we hope that we can start it by the end of this year.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And your overall investment, you're looking for in excess of $100 million.
So for phase 1 is 170 million. As I mentioned, it's a mixture of work, live, and play. And the whole project is very big, and we are speaking about a 2.5 billion USD project.
Thank you very much indeed. I look forward to seeing how that grows and comes together. I think it has a very good possibilities, and is going to be very much an environmental and self-sustaining development, which is great.
Yeah. These are points which we will put forward because we believe that the community at large must be fully integrated into the development of our project for it to be a success, meaning local people and foreign people coming to live here. For it to have life, we believe that we need this mix locally and internationally.
Thank you very much indeed. And
thank you, Paul.
We look forward to hearing how things develop over the years and keeping in touch with that. And anyone interested in taking some investment positions, then please get in touch. Now we're going to welcome Dr. Diamana from the Côte d'Ivoire to tell us a little bit about his project. And he's joined by Joseph Grau, who is going to do the translation. So welcome, Dr. Diamana, and it's very nice to see you here on our session for investment and developments. And welcome, gentlemen. Perhaps we can pass to you now and invite you to tell us about your investment opportunity in Côte d'Ivoire. Need to unmute yourself, yeah.
Merci beaucoup. Je salue tous ceux qui sont sur la plateforme.
Thank you very much. My greetings goes to all the panelists.
Je ne saurais présenter le projet sans localiser la Côte d'Ivoire d'abord pour qu'il soit mieux sûr.
I could not carry out my presentation without presenting Ivory Coast for all of you guys to know where Ivory Coast is located.
La Côte d'Ivoire est un magnifique pays situé en Afrique de l'Ouest, dans le golfe de Guinée.
Côte d'Ivoire is a very beautiful country located in the Gulf of Guinea.
Frontalier au Burkina, le Mali vers le nord.
Bordered by Mali and Burkina in the north.
Le Libéria à l'ouest et le Ghana au sud.
Liberia in west and Ghana east.
C'est un joyau de 322 462 km².
It's a country that is large at 322,462 square meters.
Et sa population est estimée à près de 23 200 000 habitants.
Population is estimated around 23 millions. Yeah. Thank you for the slides.
Dans son approche de développement, le premier président a placé la capitale à Yamoussoukro, et c'est la capitale politique, et Abidjan la capitale économique.
So we have the political capital in Yamoussoukro. Abidjan is the economic capital.
Cette nation comporte 31 grandes régions qui sont des pôles d'attraction.
So the country is divided into 31 regions.
Et donc, le PIB de la Côte d'Ivoire est de 49,4 milliards. C'est le PIB, soit près de 300 milliards de francs CFA. La Côte d'Ivoire confirme son statut de première économie de l'UEMOA.
Yeah, the GDP is yeah, can we go to the next slide, please? Yeah, with a GDP of 49.4 billion. Yeah, and it's the leading economy in the West Africa.
La Côte d'Ivoire est essentielle en Afrique de l'Ouest et occupe la 12e place au niveau du classement de la Banque mondiale.
Yeah, it's the 12. It's ranking 12 by the World Bank as a richest African country.
Au deuxième classement de Doing Business, il a été ici au 110e rang mondial sur 190 pays.
Yeah, Doing Business is ranking Ivory Coast on the 110th out of 190 countries.
Le cacao qui engendre le chocolat, notre pays est l'un des premiers producteurs dans le monde.
So, leading cocoa producer in the world as well.
Alors, au niveau de l'EVA, nous avons du grand potentiel. Nous sommes 4e mondial.
I mean, 4th producer on rubber in the world.
Mais ce qui est essentiel que vous devez découvrir, c'est que la Côte d'Ivoire compte 520 km de côtes bordant l'océan Atlantique.
Yeah, Côte d'Ivoire has 520 kilometers coastal bordering the Atlantic Ocean. Yeah.
La Côte d'Ivoire est une immense bénédiction naturelle avec ses plages au sable fin, des cocotiers, des criques, des falaises, des lagunes permettant la baignade et qui est un épanouissement total pour tout touriste qui découvre l'Afrique.
And it has some marvelous places like fine standing beaches, coconut palms, clay cliffs, lagoon for swimming, and so forth. Ivory Coast is a very beautiful country for any foreigner visiting the country.
Ce qui permettra aux touristes de faire des pêches et je vais dire.
So it's also helps doing surfing, fishing sport and whatever, and also fishing. Yeah, that is.
Nous avons des potentialités comme Grand Bassam, qui sont des villes touristiques, Assini, Sassandra et San Pedro, qui sont les principales destinations touristiques enviées par les autres pays environnant la Côte d'Ivoire.
Ivory Coast do have, towns like Grand Bassam, Assini, Sassandra, and San Pedro that are, the main seaside tourist destination and that are mostly appreciated.
Je voudrais dire à tous les professionnels du tourisme que la Côte d'Ivoire est une opportunité touristique dont les segments vont être présentés maintenant, dont la baie des milliardaires. Question. Je disais que la Côte d'Ivoire est une opportunité touristique pour tous les sachants, les professionnels du tourisme, dont nous allons présenter quelques segments les plus importants, dont la baie des milliardaires, qui jonche juste Abidjan et qui a une étendue de plans d'eau inestimable.
So one of the main tourist destination and opportunity is the Billionaire Bay that is in the outskirts of Abidjan, and that have a beautiful landscape.
Alors, les images d'opérateurs économiques dans le domaine touristique qui montrent là déjà des sites qui sont occupés, qui attirent des millions de personnes, de touristes en Côte d'Ivoire chaque année.
So the below images showing the existing tourist infrastructure, hotels in Abidjan Bay and Billionaire Bay that are drawing in the country thousands of tourists every year.
Cette eau que vous voyez, c'est l'océan Atlantique, ce qui borde donc la baie des milliardaires.
So you can also see here the Atlantic Ocean that's that is located in the Billionaire Bay.
Nous allons maintenant à San Pedro, une grande ville touristique qui est une opportunité, je vais dire, inestimable. Allons-y à San Pedro.
So we'll also have another tourist project in San Pedro, which is a beautiful city that are drawing very large people every year. So we move to San Pedro.
À San Pedro, nous avons une opportunité de 250 hectares situés en bordure de Bon Primé, qui donc en bordure se trouve encore une immense étendue d'eau. Et à San Pedro, nous avons l'opportunité de réaliser sur cette superficie de 250 hectares, je veux dire une cité touristique qui serait très attrayante à quelques encablures du nouveau stade que l'État de Côte d'Ivoire a de réaliser en prélude de la Coupe d'Afrique des Nations.
Yeah, in San Pedro, we do have a project that we are planning to implement on 350 hectares in Pont-Brimé, which has a very beautiful river and in the place, and which is close to the it's located in this, next to the Olympic Stadium that is being built for the next African Nation Cup.
Ce projet donc que nous allons réaliser en collaboration avec le Conseil africain du tourisme, c'est un challenge. Pour relever le tourisme, c'est un challenge, c'est un avantage inestimable qui va attirer beaucoup de touristes en Afrique et singulièrement en Côte d'Ivoire.
It's going to be a challenge for us to do it, because we're going to do it in collaboration with the African Tourism Board that we hope will help us to implement this project for the goods of Ivory Coast.
Je veux dire, les bordures d'eau, les plages existantes sont déjà une opportunité inestimable et nous souhaitons réaliser ce projet-là. Et je pense que la volonté du Conseil africain du tourisme d'accompagner ce projet est un avantage immense. Nous souhaitons le réaliser pour relever le tourisme en Côte d'Ivoire.
So we're wishing to implement this project in collaboration with the African Tourism Board because it's a location. The location is well situated and next to the sea and also the river. So which is good for relaunching and uplifting the tourism industry in Côte d'Ivoire.
La Côte d'Ivoire est toujours une destination touristique prisée et nous souhaitons boucler cette opération.
So Côte d'Ivoire has ever been a tourist destination. So we believe to implement these projects and help also this image to stand.
Merci.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. And do you have an estimate for your investment that you're looking for?
Et demande si tu as l'estimation du montant que tu cherches pour pouvoir investir dans ce projet.
Oui, nous avons confié un cabinet d'études.
We have engaged a company, a specialist company,
qui est déjà en train de travailler sur les droits de purge coutumiers.
That are working on the rights of the locals.
Jusqu'à l'obtention de l'ACD pour la réalisation du projet, on va communiquer.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much indeed, gentlemen, for your presentation and for joining us
finalize
today.
the paperwork for the implementation of this project.
Excellent. Well, we look forward to learning more about this exciting development. It looks absolutely superb, and it's been extremely interesting to our audience to learn about the Côte d'Ivoire and the opportunities and investment opportunities there. So thank you so much for joining us today. I'm now going to move to our next colleague, Mr. John Pinniger. John and I have known each other now for a number of years.